the next one, but we're not sure. I mean, that's like some of the different yeah, from
Oh, it's upstairs? He didn't put it down?
it's here in Israel, and here at least
I
should tell while they're moving, put it down here.
Be well. Thank you for
I don't know.
coming.
I did. I don't know. Gary told me yesterday. So long as I know at least a day in advance, I can.
Yeah, but they didn't do whatever it is upstairs that they're supposed to do.
Juice was.
But,
He's only one man, right?
I'll catch up. My meetings are starting again.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Well, we'll see how fast.
Not long.
Depends on how much interruption there is too, right?
I'm not in control of that.
Oh, you're not? I didn't know I needed a Maturgaman. I'm starting with the learning sponsors. Year of Learning, Sue and Arnie Garlick in memory of Malka Proman and Philip Mann. Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, and Yerivka Pro Rosna ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. In memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah ben Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Sharon and Fred Liska, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Elbas Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon, and Martha Gitler, Chana Bat Yeshaya. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova Bat Yisrael Dov in her memory. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein, and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher. Friends of Nina Mornester, Nechama Azna Bat Yitzchak Aharon. Many friends of Stephen Vigdor, Lezecha Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi. A month of learning by Aaron and Mel Haller in memory of her mother, Malka Rachel Bat Yehuda Leib. By B. Pizer in memory of her husband, Harav Yisrael Chaim Ben David. By Tova and Leo Zimmer in memory of her mother, Enya Bat Rav Beryl and her father, Aaron Ben Yosef Mordechai. Perry and Jill Meltzer in memory of his mother, Malka Bat Baruch, and his sister Golda Leah Bat David Halevi. A week of learning by Marvin Becker in memory of his father, Yaakov Ben Meir. By Judy Iger in memory of her mother, Bela Bat Anshel Yitzchak. And Shemas have an Aliyah, Crank of Fear, Velti Yeshua Shemat Leah, and the Chobin Israel, good Gaben Shtiar.
Amen. Amen.
Okay. All right. We should be on Kaf Bet Amud Aleph, right?
No.
Okay. Kaf Beis Amud Aleph is today's Amud. So what do I want to tell us? Okay, so I wanted just to point out real quick as we go into today's Gemara that if you followed this morning's Torah reading, you'll see both it has the reference to Vayadaber, okay, the beginning, all right, so that's included. And number two, the whole question that we're going to see as to what do we do in terms of when we recite what, how it's divided up and things like that, okay? So the Gemara says, basically in the bottom of Kaf Aleph Amud Beis, right? It said, okay. Yom Shabbat Havinu Trei V'Rosh Chodshechem Havinu Chamisha Hechina Avid. What are we going to do? Right? Nikre Trei Meha V'Chad Mehanach. Should we read two from one shall two people read, okay, and then one read one? Okay, ve'ein matchilin, right? So now, ve'ein matchilin b'parsha pachod mishlosha psukim. But it says we cannot follow, right? We can't begin a new, let's say, paragraph, section, okay, with less than 3 verses. V'kretre meha utzlata mehach. So maybe we'll say that you read 2 from this one and 3 from the other. Pashu lahotre, then you've got 2 left, which is where we were left off yesterday. Okay? Amar lo. So he says to him, Zo lo shamati. I didn't learn this. He says, Kiyotse ba shamati, but something similar I did learn. Right? The Tananis was taught elsewhere in the Mishnah. Biyom Harishon, on the first day, Breshit. Okay, Vayhi Rakia. In other words, when we talked about reading the section, okay, from the beginning of Breshit, right? That's okay, from the Ma'amad, okay, for there, how do we structure that? Okay, and we said Breshit was still one of the 10 statements. Okay, so he says, B'yom Rishon, Breshit, and the first day, we read the section Breshit, Vayhi Rakia, Vatani Allah Breshit B'shnayim. And here we would teach that the section of Breshit is done by 2 readers. Those are the first two people. Okay, all right? Yehi Rakia be'echad. And then the section of Yehi Rakia is by 1 reader, the 3rd person. Okay, V'havinin ba. And when we talked about this, when we questioned this, right? Bishlema Yehi Rakia. We said that's acceptable regarding the Yehi Rakia section. Bechad detzlata psuke havu. Why? Because that's clearly 3 verses in itself, right? Ela Breshit b'shnayim. But you're going to say that the Breshit section, okay, that was going to be read the 1st and 2nd person, okay? Chamisha psuke havu, okay? That's only got 5 psukim. Vitanya, okay? Erwin, you can hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, right, and what about that? We have a braita that says, Hakorei b'Torah lo yifchod mishlosha psukim, that one who reads from the Torah should not read any less than 3 verses. Itmar Allah, and it was said about this, a different machloket, which was the following, okay? Rav Amar Doleg, Ushmuel Amar Posek. Rav said one should repeat, implying the last verse, okay? And Shmuel says you divide that last verse in half. You go,
The 3rd.
yes, yes, the last verse of that section.
No, that section is 5 verses. You divide or double the 3rd.
Third,
of the
okay,
5.
we'll see.
So the first guy.
Hold on, we'll see. Okay? Oh, Shmuel Amar Posek. And Shmuel says, no, you divide it in half. Okay? Namely, what does you do? If you have instead of doing, Shmuel would say you do 2.5 and 2.5. That's what he's saying. Okay. That's true. The Gemara is going to have a problem with that. Okay? So in other words, that's why I didn't want Michael just to go ahead just right away. Okay? In other words, if he says, so one answer is saying what happens, you do verse 1, 2, 3, then you go back and do 3, 4, 5. Okay, that was Rav's view. Right? Shmuel said, no, you do 2.5 and 2.5. Okay, so now we clarify. Right? Okay, so what happens? Rav Amar Doleg, Rav said you repeat. Okay, my Tama, what was his reasoning? Lo Amar Posek. Why didn't he take the view of Shmuel to say split that verse in half? Kasavar, Kol Psuka de lo Paske Moshe, Anan lo Paskinan le. Because he has had the opinion, any verse that Moshe did not divide, we do not divide. Okay, that's the point. Okay, Shmuel Amar, and Shmuel says Paskinan le, and Shmuel says we can divide it in half. Right? Vaha Amar Rabbi Hananya, but the Gemara tells us, which we've had before, by the way. Okay, right? Didn't Rabbi Hanania once tell us? And Rabbi Hanania was the Torah teacher. He taught, right? Rabbi Hanania Kara. Sar Gadol Hayali. I had a lot of problems, he says. Eitzu Rabbi Hanina Agadol. When Rabbi Hanina Agadol was in charge, okay, whether it was the school or he was the whatever, right? Velo hitirli lifsok el latino code shel beit rabban, and he did not permit me to split a verse in half, okay, except for the students of the academy, or il lehet lalmod, right? Asuyin, except if it was done for them to learn their psukim. What they did is they learned their psukim by heart according to the trope. Okay, and so that's what he was referring to. Hatam tamamai, in that case, to allow to divide it up for the students. Why? Right? Mishum de lo efshar, because it would be impossible otherwise to teach it to them properly. Okay, hachanami lo efshar. So Shmuel argues here too. Otherwise, it would be problematic, impossible. So Gemara continues, Shmuel Amar Posek, Ma'itam lo Amar Dole. And the fact that Shmuel said to split it in half, right? Why didn't he give the answer of Rav to repeat it, right? Gezerah mishum hanichnasin umishum hayotzein. Again, because of this, here, notice, by the way, it says Gezerah, whereas when we had it yesterday, it said takana. Okay, so I wanted just to point that out, difference that the Gemara itself, there's a difference between a takana and a gezerah. Okay, and here the implication is, again, the Gemara is accepting the fact that it's supposedly known by everybody what is that takana or gezerah is. It doesn't go into detail explaining it. Okay, as we referred to yesterday, looking at Rashi, Rashi's point was clearly the fact that if someone left early or they came in late, they would not know that an earlier bracha was recited, okay, or a later bracha was recited, okay, and therefore, okay, so he would say that's the problem. Okay, so what happens? May tive. Well, we challenge that with the following. Parasha shel shisha psukim, korina tabishnayim. Okay, if we have a section, a paragraph that is consisting of 6 verses, okay, 2 people can read it. V'shel chamisha psukim biyachid, and this Braita is saying, but if it's only 5 psukim, only 1 person can read it. Okay, kara rishon shlosha. Hasheni korei shnayim miparsha zo, ve'echad miparsha acheret. Okay, so if that's the case, if it's 5, okay, the first person reads 3, and the second person reads 2 verses from, let's say, 1 paragraph or section, and then he reads another verse from the next one. V'yesh omrim, and there are those that say, shlosha Lafi she'ein matchilin b'parasha pachot mishlosha psukim. And according to this, there's a yesh omrim, those that say, okay, not as a straight braita, but this braita has it only as a yesh omrim, okay, that if there are 3 verses, okay, we don't begin a new section, okay, in less than 3 verses. So the Gemara picks up. Ve'im ita laman da'amar, and if there is those that say, doleg, that one repeats, nidlog, we should repeat it. Right. Ulaman da'amar posek, and according to the one who says you cut it in half, right? Nifso, we'll do that. Okay. Now the Gemara tells us something else here. Shani hatam. It's different there in that Braita, Defshar Bahachi, because there it seems to do it, possible to do it. Okay, all right. So the implication now is Amar Rabbi Tanchum, says Rabbi Tanchum, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Halacha ki yesh omrim. And the law is like the Yesh Omrim. Okay, that when we have three verses, okay, that's for, then it comes in terms of the next paragraph. Okay. V'amar Rabbi Tanchum, further, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. B'shem she'ein matchilin b'parasha pachot mishlosha psukim, where we don't begin a new section, paragraph, less than three verses. Kach ein mishayrin beparasha pachot mishlosha psukim. So we don't leave also a section or a paragraph with less than three verses. Pshita, says the Gemara, isn't that obvious? Hashta umahit chalta v'kamakil tanakam. And here's his argument, why it should be so obvious. Here he says, where initially you have something where Tanakama, the earlier Braita, was lenient, machmire yesh omrim, and now we say the yesh omrim, that we're saying that that's the halacha, is more stringent. Shi'ur de machmir Tanakama, if we have an example where Tanakama itself is fairly strict on saying that there had to be three, right? Lo kol shekain the machmire yesh omrim. Is it not all the more so that the yesh omrim should be stringent about this? Mahu detema. So what are you then saying us? Nichnesim shchichi. Okay, in a situation where we have a factor that people tend to come in late, that's a common situation. Okay? V'yotzein lo shchichi. But the fact that people would leave early, that is not a common occasion. Okay? And the Gemara is going to okay. Okay, well, we'll come back to that in a second when we get to repeat this same point in regards to Rava later on in his makom, right? Okay, yotzin lo shchichi. Why? The manche sefer Torah v'nafke. Because then people would be abandoning a sefer Torah and they would be leaving. Kamash Malan comes to teach us that that's not the case. Okay, right? Vatana Kama. Okay, Maishna Shiurei Delo. So the Tanakama, then what was his reason? Okay, that he didn't indicate this practice of leaving at least three verses at the end there. Okay, why didn't he say that? Mishum Yotzin. Okay, because of his concern about those who might leave early. Et chulei nami gzeira mishum hanichnasim. Okay, if that's the case, then here too, okay, he also should have included that in his statement regarding the gzeira of those who come in late. Amrei man da'ayil shiulei shayil. Okay, a little poeticism here. Amrei, we would say, those who come, they come when they come, so to speak. Okay? Shlach le Rava berei de Rava le Rav Yosef.
They'll for sure ask, where are
They'll
we?
ask,
What's going
okay,
on?
those who come in late, they'll ask, where are you?
Right.
Where's the reading at this point? Okay? Those that come in, oh, Shiule Shaila, they will ask. Okay? They will ask even if it's in the middle of the reading. Okay. Now, Shalach le Rabba berei de Rabba. Rabba, the son of Rabba, asked Rav Yosef, Hilchata Mai, what's the law? Shalach le Hilchata Doleg. Okay? V'emtzai Dolgan. He sent him the fact that the law is like Rav, namely that we repeat, okay? And the middle one, in other words, the second reader is the one who goes back, repeats the last pasuk from the previous reader, and then he goes on. Okay? All right. Let's go on. Ready? Zeh hakla. Here's a general principle. We back to our Mishnah. Kol sheyesh bo musaf v'chulei. Okay. Okay. Ibayalahu. So now the question was asked. Ta'anit sibur b'kama. How many people read on the occasion of a Ta'anit sibur? Okay. The implication being, is it 3 people or is it 4 people? That's going to be the Gemara's basic question, right? Okay, right? So we're going to see that in just a minute, okay? Rosh Chodesh, all right, like today. Umoed, referring to Chol HaMoed, right? De'ika Korban Musaf, where there is clearly an additional offering on those occasions. Arba'ah, we have 4 people reading, okay? So that begins to tell us when there is something added to the service, we also seem to add a person for the reader.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the word musaf means addition.
Okay, right? That's what I'm saying. We could derive from that the idea that when something is added, it could be a korban, it could be something else, therefore we add a person.
The 6 extra brachas.
Okay,
Also.
so that would seem to imply that maybe on a Ta'anit Tzibur we should have 4. Okay, lo, no, o dilma, or perhaps hachanami ika musaf tefila. But on a Ta'anit Tzibur we have an additional element in the Shmona Esrei. We add anenu, so we
had 6 brachas.
okay, so we add an addition, something still additional is added. Fine, it may not be a korban, but there's still something added, and therefore, again, do I say that therefore in that example too, since I add something there, I add an additional person regarding the Torah reading, okay? Tashma, says the Gemara, listen to the following bright. B'roshei chodashim u'b'cholo shel moed. Notice it spells it out there in this brighter now. Chol moed. Korin arba'ah. Here, though, we say explicitly that in those situations they read, 4 people read. Ha, b'tanit tzibur shlosha. That would seem to imply that for a Ta'anit Tzibur, you would only have 3 readers.
Because otherwise they put it in.
Ema Resha. I would say, wait a second, look at the beginning. Our Mishnah said at the outset, or earlier, B'sheni uv'chamishi u'b'shabbat, Monday morning, Thursday morning, and Shabbos mincha, Korin Shlosha. We clearly said we read 3. Ha, Ta'anit Tzibur Arba'ah. From that, I might then determine that since it only said there, and it didn't spell it out again in Ta'anit Tzibur, I might determine in that case, use that as a possible proof that on a Ta'anit Tzibur I should have 4 readers. Okay? Ella, rather meha, right? From here, right? Namely from the additional prayer of Anenu, maybe I can learn it from that. Leka lemeshma mina. That seems to say that from that example, I can't learn the number of readers for Ta'anit Tzibur on that situation, on that break. Okay? Okay, so I can't learn it there from that. All right. Tashma, listen to the following brighter. The Rav Ikla leBavel b'Ta'anit Tzibur. That Rav happened to come to Bavel on the occasion of a Ta'anit Tzibur, a communal fast. Kam kara b'sifra. He got up and he read from the Torah. I love this story. It's great. Patach beirach. Okay, since he was the first one to read, he said the initial blessing. Chatim, when he finished, velo beirach, he did not say a blessing. Okay? Michael, here we talked about this idea. Remember I said about different minhagim. Okay, remember, by the way, everybody, as we go into this Gemara, that they also had a different structure of reading between Bavel and Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael only finished the Torah in the 3-year cycle. Bavel finished it in a 1-year cycle, which seems to say that maybe there were other difference in minhagim between Eretz Yisrael and Bavel. Okay, let's keep that in mind. Right? Okay, well, that clearly, but okay, okay, so what happens? Another example, Nafol Kuli Alma An Payu. When everybody did Tachanun, okay, they bowed down, right? They fell on their faces. Varav lo nafal ape. And Rav did not go down on, okay. Okay, so the Gemara now says, Michdei, now or since Rav be Yisrael, okay, if we're going to say that maybe Rav was the third reader, okay, that's what Yisrael here means. It's not geographic, okay? It's the fact that he was in the third place. He was the third position. Okay, right? Third reader. Kara, mai tama hatam velo birech. What then would be the reason that on the conclusion he didn't bless? Okay. Lav mishum debaye lemikre acharina batre. Would it not be then that perhaps there was somebody coming out after him, a fourth person, and therefore it would be that person's responsibility to say the closing blessing? Okay, would that be the issue?
He wouldn't have made the first blessing.
Okay. Oh, well, that's what the Gemara is going to tell us in just a second. Lo, that couldn't have been the case. Rav Bekahane Kara. No, Rav read in the first position. He was the first reader. Why? Because we see number one, excuse me, that he did the initial blessing. That's the case. And the Gemara is going to teach us something brand new also. Daha Rav Huna Kare Kahani. Why? Because here we knew that Rav Huna always received was the first reader. Okay? We're going to get to that, right, Ruvain? Why? Because in a moment the Gemara is going to tell us what was their practice. Right? That Rav Huna, by the way, Rav was a student, Talmid Muvhak of Rav Huna. We should keep that in mind too, by the way. Okay, Rav Huna was considered the Gadol Hador in his generation. Okay, keep that in mind. So what happens? Rav Huna Kare Bakahane. Rav Huna read the first Aliyah. Bishlema Rav Huna Kare Bakahane. That's understandable that Rav Huna read the first Aliyah. Why? The Ha'afilu Rav Ami v'Rav Asi. Because even Rav Ami and Rav Asi, the Kohane Chashive Da'are Yisrael, who were themselves actual Kohanim, and they were important Kohanim in the land of Israel, Mechaf Kafai, lay the Rav Huna. They saw themselves subservient intellectually to Rav Huna. Okay? Ela Rav, but Rav. Ha'ika Shmuel de Kahana Hava. But in regards to Rav, hold on a second. Okay? He acknowledged that Shmuel himself was a Kohen, right? V'davar alei. Okay? And he subordinated himself to Shmuel, I was going to say in a moment, under certain circumstances, right? Namely, Shmuel Nami Mekef Hava Kief Leila Rav. And Shmuel also subordinated himself to Rav under certain circumstances. Even though Shmuel was a Kohen. So we got a little complicated, right? The Rav hu da'avad le kavod. And Rav would give kavod, he would show honor to Shmuel, okay, if they were both together, I'm going to say, by giving Shmuel as a, so to speak, real live Kohen, the first reading honor. Okay. V'chi avidle, did he really do that? Asks people, Rav. When? Bifanav, when they were in this presence, when they happened to be together. Shelo bifanav, but when they were not together, lo avidle, he did not do that. No, then Rav would take the first reading honor.
But no, this is another thing too, saying halacha over.
Maybe, I didn't see that in any, I didn't see, please. Okay, so what happens? Hachinami de mistabra, the Rav bekahane kra. Therefore, it seems logical, based on our story, right, that Rav read in the first position, the first honor. The Isa Gadatach bi Yisrael kara. Okay, if you thought that he had read in the third order, the third position, right? Lefaneha mai tama barich. What then would he have recited a blessing before that? Maybe lachar takana. Okay, maybe maybe this we're talking about after the fact that the rabbis made the takana that each person would say the two blessings. Okay. Ihachi la'acharei nami levarech. If that's the case, then afterwards he also should have said a blessing. Shani heched yativ Rav. It's different here. Where Rav was, Dama'il Aile. Okay, what happened?
People come late.
Where? Because there we said Dama'ile Aile. All right, the people would come late. All right, and then what would happen? Yeah, all right, I'm going to continue. All right, Mafik la mafke, but they would not leave early.
In other words, everybody heard Rav is in town, so
They
left.
stayed till they stayed, they wouldn't leave, right? Okay. Now, let's go on. Mafke, all right, okay, Tashma, a new brighter. Zeh haklal. Kol sheyesh bo bitul malacha la'am. And it ends says this general principle. When there is a situation of, I'm not sure I want to translate cessation, but a putting off, okay, of work among the general population, kigon ta'anit tzibur, b'tisha b'av, or like on a communal fast, b'tisha b'av, korin shlosha, we read 3. Okay, v'she'ein bo bitul malacha la'am, when there is no putting off of work.
We're delaying, keeping
Right.
going in shul is not going to stop people.
Okay,
from
the
working.
translation I have is whereas a loss of work due to being late in synagogue.
Right.
Okay,
On Tisha B'Av, you're theoretically allowed to work,
Okay.
so they don't keep
right.
them alone.
Kagon Roshei Chodashim, like on New Year's Day. All right, because on a new month, there's some who argue that men also,
Should not.
besides women, would not be working. Okay, Kagon Rosh Chodashim, B'cholo Shel Moed, like those. Korin Arba Shmamina. We have 4 readers, and that's what we learned from this. Okay, based on the idea of a public fast, that implies the public fast would only be 3. Please,
Because you are allowed to work.
because you're allowed to. Okay, now,
No, we should read this over like Erev Tisha.
Yeah.
That's, you know,
Amar Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi, Vaha Anan Lo Tanan Hachi. But he says we didn't learn that. Okay, perhaps on when? We'll see. Okay, Zahakla. Here's a general principle. Kol Yom Sheyesh Bo Musaf. Any day that has Musaf. V'ain, something added. Ve'eno Yom Tov, but it's not a holiday. Korin Arba'ah, we read 4. That would give us Rosh Chodesh, and that would give us Chol HaMoed, okay? Right?
When it says Zehakval, is every next.
La'atuye Mai, to include what? Lav La'atuye Ta'anit Tzibur V'Tisha B'Av. Would that not include the communal fast day in the 9th of Av? The Rav Ashi Matnit Mani. If that's the case, according to Rav Ashi, according to whom is the Mishnah? Lo Tanakama, velo Rabbi Yossi. It would seem then to be neither according to Tanakama, okay, who could be Rabbi Meir, or Rabbi Yossi. The Tanya, as we learn in the following Braita, okay, which is we're going to see in a moment. All right, so that, okay. Chal liot b'sheni u'b'chamishi, if something occurs, okay, what are we talking about? Tisha B'Av or Atani Tzibur, okay? If they both, right? Chal liot b'sheni u'b'chamishi, if they fall out on a Monday or a Thursday, Korin Shlosha u'maftir echad. We have 3 readers, and one of them does a Navi, one of them does a Haftarah. Okay? Bishlishi u'b'Revi'i, if it falls out on Tuesday or Wednesday, Korei echad, one person, u'maftir echad, and the one person does a Haftarah. However, as we go on, Rabbi Yossi Omer says, Le'olam korin shlosha. Okay, he says we have 3, umaftir echad, and one of them does the haftarah. Okay, so therefore that would seem that both Tanakama and Rabbi Yossi say, okay, we read 3 and not 4.
They both say it's not 4.
Okay, ve'elakasha zehaklal. So that seems then to be problematic because we said a general principle. No, la'atuye Rosh Chodesh u'moed. No, it comes then to include the issue of Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed. Ha behedye katani, but that's specifically, explicitly taught. Birosh Roshei Chodashim u'moed korin arba'ah, where it says on Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed, we read 4. Gemara tells us, Simana ba'alma yahiv. Maybe they were simply giving us a recommendation, okay, a general idea, way to be aware of it. Delo tema, so that you wouldn't say, Yom Tov v'cholo shamoed ki hadade ninhu, that these were the same as these others. 5, like a Yom Tov itself. It's the same as the Yom Tov. Ele nikod hai klala biyadecha. Rather, take this principle, okay, and deal with it the following, namely, kol detfele milta. Okay, and here we're going to say any element where there's an additional element regarding, I'm going to put in the laws of the day, okay, michavre, from its neighbor, right? Tfele gavra yetera. We then add an additional person, okay? Hilkach, therefore, berosh chodesh u'moed, de'ika korban musaf, on Rosh Chodesh and Chol HaMoed, where there is an additional musaf offering, korin arba'ah, we have 4 people read. Biyom Tov, on a holiday, da'asur ba'asiyat malacha, where there is an additional prohibition of work, chamisha, then we add another person, now we get 5. Biyom HaKippurim, da'anush karet, on Yom Kippur we have, if somebody does, we have an additional punishment of koret. Shisha, we have 6 aliyahs. Shabbat, de'ika isur skila. Okay, where's Shabbos? Then we have a real punishment of stoning, shiva. Okay, now we
That would
can,
seem to indicate that Nisa B'Bei Adam is worse than Nisa B'Bei Shemai.
could be, could
Where
be,
is that? Okay, sounds.
right. Okay. That's probably a very, could very well have been a different.
No, I mean elsewhere there is.
Yeah,
that
that's what I'm
mahloket.
saying.
This seems
Some
to be
could have
real
had a
mahloket.
Masorah one way, some a Masorah another way.
But
Gufa.
this-
Let's come back to our text. Okay, coming back to the story we read before.
Rob's
Rav Ikla Lebavel, B'Tanit Tzibur. When Rav came to Babylonia, okay, on a communal fast, Kam Kra B'Sifra. He got up and he read in the Torah. Patach Birach. He opened up, he started, he was the first to honor. Okay, he said a blessing. Chatam v'lo birech. Okay, closing, he didn't bless. Nifol kuli alma a'anpayu, that everyone fell on their face. Fatachanan, v'rav lo afal anfe, and Rav didn't fall on his face. Ma'itama Rav lo nafil ape. Notice the question in the Gemara. Didn't ask about the chatima.
Well, we said that already.
We
dealt with
discussed that. So why now we come back to the second issue? Why didn't he have nefilat apayim? Okay, ritzpa shel avanim haita, because there was a stone floor in front of him. Now we're going to get a whole maisa here. V'tanya, and we have a brighter. Ve'evin maskit lo titnu ba'artzachem lishtachavot aleha, and a floor made from cut stone, okay, you should not have in your land to bow upon it. Okay? Aleha i'ata mishtachave ba'artzachem. On it, you cannot bow in your land. Aval ata mishtachave al avanim shel beit hamikdash. But you may bow on the stones in the floor of the Beis Hamikdash. Kida Ula, as was said by Ula. The Amar Ula, as Ula says, Lo Asra Torah ela ritzpah shel avanim bilvad, that the Torah only prohibited a floor made from stone. Ihachi mai iria Rav. If that's the case, what happened regarding the Rav? Afilu kulhu nami, then all of them also should not have been bowing down. Kame de Rav have. The part of the floor that was stone was in front of Rav only. The rest of the stone floor may have been dirt. Okay? All right? V'lizir legabe tzibura, v'lin pol alape. So let him go closer to where the congregation was and bow down, fall on his face. Lo bai lemitrach tzibura. He did not want to bother the interrupt the community. Vi bayat ema. And therefore I might ask, Rav, pishut yadayim v'reglayim hava avim. It would appear then that when Rav went down, he spread his arms and his legs. Okay? Ukida Ula, and as said by Ula, the Amar Ula, as Ula said, Lo Asrat Torah, ela pishut yadayim v'raglayim bilvad, that the Torah only forbade the spreading of arms and legs only. V'lipol al ape, okay, but to fall on his face, so to speak. V'lo la'avi de pishut yadayim v'raglayim, and not to spread arms and legs. Lo mishani miminhage. We're told that Rav, however, was not prepared to change from his normal custom of how he did it. Okay? Ve'bayit ema. And if you want, I would explain it this way. Adam chashuv, shani k'de Rebbe Elazar. An important person is different, okay, like Rebbe Elazar. The Amar Rebbe Elazar, who says, Ein Adam Chashuv Rashai Lipol Al Panav Ela Im Kain Ne'anek Yehoshua Ben Nun. That an important person is not permitted to fall on his face unless his prayer is going to be answered like that of Yehoshua ben Nun. Right? Dichtiv, why? Because we have a pasuk that teaches us, Vayomer Hashem el Yehoshua kum lech. Okay?
Get up. So
It
you
says,
have to
he
get up.
says, get up, because when he saw that being, when he was traveling, the being, Avi, you said you had to leave at 9:30. Okay, all right. Tanu Rabbanan. Now to finish up, we have a brayta that teaches different forms of bowing, which were as follows. As we go, Keda, that style, I'm going to say, of bowing, al apayim, on his face, Shneamar, v'tikod Batsheva apayim aretz, that Batsheva bowed her face to the ground. Kriya, another form, al birkayim, that's going on the knees. V'chein hu omer, as we say, michroa al birkam, bound on the knees. Hishtachava'a, totally stretching out, I'll put it that way. Okay, zo pishut yadayim v'raglayim, that means spreading one's hands and one's legs. Shneimar, havo navo ani ve'imcha va'achicha leshtachavot lecha arza, as in the famous Yosef story. Okay, Levi, and now we're going to see what happens if you're not in good physical condition. Okay, Levi achve keda kame derav ve'itla. Levi attempted to do keda, that style, before Rebbe ve'itla, and he became lame. Right? V'hakar garmale, and this is what caused him to become lame. V'hama Rabbi Elazar, and didn't Rabbi Elazar say, Le'olam al yatiach adam dvarim klape mala, that one should never be, how shall I put it? I want a good,
Complain to God.
complain, but it's more than just complain. It's, you shouldn't be obstinate. You shouldn't bad mouth or whatever.
You shouldn't badmouth
Mouth
God.
God, all right?
I mean, things with your tourists.
Right? Shaharei Adam Gadol Hitich Dvarim Klape Mala. For a great man was bad mouthing, obstinate against God. V'itla, and he became lame. And who was it? Umanim? Levi. It was Levi. Ha vaha garma la. Both this and this caused him to become lame. Right? So I think what we'll do is we'll stop. I could continue just a little bit. Amar Rav Chia bar Avin chazina lahola abai v'raba dematzle atzluye. That I would see that both Abai and Rabba, what did they do? Dematzle atzluye. They, according to one tradition, one translation, they leaned on their side. According to the another, they bowed their heads. Okay, and we'll stop there. So we'll have gone over the top. Okay. Okay, guys. Okay, Harvey.
Thank you,
Steve,
Reb.
you there?
Thank you. Yep, I'm still here.
Have a good day. Have a good Chodesh, everybody.
You too. All the best.
Okay, 1 second. Let me move that for you a little bit. Okay. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be back upstairs. Oy. Okay, thank you. know how Zeus schleps these chairs. I said how Zeus schleps these chairs and puts and piles them up.
You know what, if you do it all the time,
Yeah,
I've seen guys 50, 60, take 50-pound bag of flour,
yeah,
because they do it all, when you stop doing it,
yeah.
then you can't go back.
Okay. Ryan, you were able to take care of that situation? You were able to take care of that situation?
Yes, yes. I spoke, basically what we said is, on the books, we're gonna show the full amount. You pay what you want, and when he gives money for Elias, you count the Elias money that you give towards your membership, and it should. I don't want that, because he did the same thing. He said, oh, but there's other people that don't pay full amount. Once you open the floodgates, Jews, everyone is dying.
And ideally, really, Jews payment should come first before donation.
Right. That's the idea.
Oh, here, you want here. Here, go to,
The shul director,
go to Nordstrom.
David Dolman.
David.
David Dolman.
Oh, Dolly?
You mean the book with the
book.
pictures and everything? So this is the after.
The office, my brother-in-law just became a member.
Oh, yeah?
So they told him, oh, you missed the book.
More.
No, what they did,
And
they
then-
would do is they
When
make
they, when these.
an addition or something. Yeah, so speak to him.
But David told my brother-in-law Saturday night, he bumped it, you can still get in the book. So we gotta find that out, get him into the book. So maybe that's-
You guys all finished? Yeah. Okay. He has asked, I think, to do it also on Zoom.
Sure, I could do that.
Okay, so I don't know if he's gonna bring his own computer
Okay,
or what. But we'll see.
okay. So you have to get something out real quick. Let me do it right now.
Okay, if you could do that, that would be great. He's right there. Isn't that him right by the window? At 10 o'clock. No, Daf Yomi's finished already.
So how come,
Yeah. Yeah, did you follow it? Ah, okay. Mhm. Okay. Right, that's part of the problem. If you look at. No. So the first aliyah is this, right? So what did they do? They reprinted this line, which is here. So the second person repeats the last verse in this aliyah in order to get three. Okay, that's the first issue.
Right.
Okay, the Gemara also talked about this, that this is a whole, it's got to be included. Right, so you now dealt with this issue. Okay, that was the today's machloket between Rav and Shmuel.
I didn't get to that.
Okay, but now you understand.
Yeah.
See,
You
here
repeat it.
they just printed it.
Or they didn't have enough there, so they.
Right.
So they took from here.
Right.
Ah,
Okay, then the question
This
is,
is also free?
okay, so but what happens? You've got another over here. Okay, so here for the third aliyah,
Yeah,
then the problem is how far do you go?
yeah.
Okay, so if you go up to here, here's a lot, all right? This is here's Shabbos, right? Ubiyom Shabbat. They printed it as part of this aliyah.
Right.
But normally it's a separate section,
Mhm.
okay? So what happens is you've got to include that so that you can get enough there. Otherwise, you won't have enough. If you made this a separate, if you
Made Yom HaShabbos separate.
If Yom
You would
HaShabbos,
have enough here.
you would have enough here, but you wouldn't have enough here.
Right, so they put Yom HaShabbos into it.
Right,
And then,
and
over
then
here
you
they got
start,
that.
you start a new subject with there, Rosh Chodesh.
Makes sense.
Well, maybe not among the 30. He was a young man, he was quite gay, and,
We know a lot of that.
yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Not like today. Like today.
Doesn't it say in our prayers to Samach, the Chagesha, you're supposed to be gay or happy? No, not that, doesn't.
They needed bigger rooms.
You know, you guys get an extra merit coming out of those. You don't run away from shul.
But if you're a high school, you're coming out of the Aron, Kodesh. That's where you're coming from.
Where does this say that it's over, they ran away right away? You ran away from shul? They didn't go for it.
Katino Kaboreach Bebeis HaSefer. Ooh, that looks good. Isn't this the holiday we share with our brethren? Let's have some of that delicious.
That's breakfast, this is what it is.
I'll die.
Does eat vegetables and fruit?
So I'm starting today with the FMO. I'm not going to do that. I know I can't like start. First time I have. I have. And I can't. I don't know if you, I'm not sure if you actually, when I don't. She had a problem.
It's always siblings and,
But I think, I said, you know what, look, I'm going to use that. Because my, I'm not trying, I go to the doctor once a year.
dairy and what else?
I'm interested in, I'm just going to know dairy, yeah, I know dairy can be stupid, but I'm really. And I know.
Vegetables. That's what it's supposed to be, salmon.
I don't need some.
I'm a herring and onion.
I don't need some. I really think you don't.
Because the fish is
No, I wish I used to.
Well, no. All that was just basic.
I don't like to, so my wife, and I like to
Oh, sure.
He's a little too fast.
Right, right. Very good.
And you.
Rabbi Elephant, years and years ago, was one of the rebbes in a school where one of my boys attended.
Yeah.
And he was his rebbe.
Oh, so he influenced them, huh?
I don't know. Right.
I did set up a Zoom link and I did email it to the congregation already, but I need a computer.
Do you need a computer or can I use my phone?
Sure, you can use your phone. Can you open the email from the show that just came?
Just
And then
came.
you just click the
You
link.
sent it on Gmail,
Yeah, it'll say Monday's classes and programs.
Monday's classes,
And then you just click the link to open, Zoom link, that's it. So
Zoom
that's
link?
just perfect if he doesn't bring a computer. Okay?
okay? The only hesitation I have, all right, that
So that
shouldn't
would
be.
be the, you know,
Do you
I
know
could
if,
always,
does
when
David
they're
keep
done.
his stand? Does he keep it here in in his office or by, you
I
don't
don't
know?
have the combination for his office.
No, I
and I'm
don't
not allowed
expect
to.
you. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 o'clock. I
Ken
just sent
Shells,
it out,
Rabbi
Shells.
Ken Shells.
I
at
just
10
sent
o'clock.
it. I forgot to send it this morning at 9.
Where is he from? He teaches at Wayne State University.
Let me get out of the way.
Book of Ezra and Nehemiah. He's still working on the book of Ezra. And he compares it to what's been in the book of Daniel. And he's very good. He's very good. What? No, be here.
You realize you don't know, if she got up and well, so she picked up and she felt like. What happened? It's the only thing, it's like this is that. She got up, covered, well. No, it's a line and somehow it's. Oh, she got terrible. One of my relatives. Like, can't read it. One of my relatives, went down to, I think in the tropics, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, whatever. And he stepped on a sea urchin. And they have a little pokey thing on it. That went into his foot. Serious. And he went to, someone told him to do something not helpful at all. They had some doctors pull him out. I just got medical advice from my son yesterday. He's bureau chief of environmental maintenance. Oh. Okay. I have a skin condition. Sometimes it's serious. And in fact, I'm trouble with my feet, but when my feet are years. It's really the skin. I'm walking in pain. We use coconut oil infused with seaweed. Try it. You're so emphatic. He was a new bride. I don't try it. I got advice from my son not do it. I'll try it. It can't hurt. Coconut ice, I don't know. Really? Oh, this is medical marijuana. On top of it, they had broken down pieces of land. Both my kids gave me. Okay.
But they asked you to do something with that.
No, this is, yeah, it's over the road. I'll try them.
Just get the one that you, get the one that you smoke too.
You know, I never,
You may be in pain.
I never smoked that. I told my son, I said, I saw reefer madness. I never touch any drugs. No.
Well, that's why you're in pain.
You smoke, but you never inhale,
No,
just like one of our
no,
presidents.
never did. Anyway, I was in Germany for 2 years. He was a teenager, he was 17 when in the army, he was in Germany. But he went out drinking every night. My son doesn't really want to tell him, if somebody put a gun to my head and said, I want a refill, I had never heard, I would not have known where to get it in the barracks. This is in the 50s. He doesn't, my son doesn't believe me. I didn't know anybody, I never heard of any, and I wouldn't have touched it. And somewhere I was scared as a kid by whatever documentary it was. I crossed the street,
Cigarettes, yes. Not-
Pinchas saw, I get a pity, and he ended up going to Kentucky for rehab. This is in his late 40s. Oh, but kid across the street, Pinchas called. Yeah. Why not?
Okay, my friend is my friend is bothering me. That's
He was the
the
sweetest kid. He was just out of the blue, and he got into service drugs, and he got into stores. Sweet kid, prison.
Okay, I'm going to Zoom you,
Okay, okay, if you want, that's fine.
all right?
Okay, but the point is they don't have a copy of my handout, that's the problem. Okay, well, hear me, fine. Okay, I didn't know what to do with my computer because I didn't have the codes to do anything. Sure.
She set it up, I told her this morning,
Okay, great.
so hopefully, you want to do it from up front, you want to move closer, whatever you'd like. I'm going to put my phone up here.
Here's the whole stack. Where do we usually leave it?
We'll put it in the bag.